technology is moving out of the back office and moving into the front office. Consumers are rapidly adapting technology rates at, faster than CIOs can actually get technology budgets approved these days. So there really is, it's no longer the CIO's problem around how to take technology and enable the new customer experience. And really what's happening now is this entire C-suite is really now responsible for determining how to use technology to change the way companies, brands, engage with their consumers. Today what's happening is with the proliferation of products and services in the marketplace, the experience is becoming the new differentiator in the market. Today consumers have access to more products and services than they ever have before. And now CMOs are trying to figure out, how do I use technology to engage my consumer in ways that I haven't really had to in the past. I used to be able to rely on my traditional ways of marketing. And now today, with consumers using mobility, smartphones to interact with brands, they really are rethinking how they have to use technology to create that new engagement model. Most of the data that was created in the last century was really about structured content, and companies have built technology infrastructures around structured content. Now you have consumers creating a tremendous amount of unstructured content. You even have devices creating unstructured content. So we're seeing this tremendous acceleration in data today. And CMOs and CIOs and the entire executive team know there are a tremendous amount of value in there. And some people actually say the new oil is data, right? That's how much value is inherent in it. And the real challenge and opportunity is starting to figure out is, how do I get at the unstructured content and get the treasure that exists in there around my consumer, so I can actually create a much more valuable engagement with them. And we're even seeing, because consumers now want to be engaged in the process, not just, they're no longer willing to wait at the end of the line to receive the product or service. They want to be a part of the journey with their favorite brands. So they're actually voting with their smartphones. They're posting what they think on social networks. And all of that is valuable information that could be used during the process and the journey as creating a product or service. So the real opportunity is to harness that now, is to use technology to figure out, how do I get access to the real important bits of data that can help me make better business decisions and create more value for my customers. Looking around the world, there's no one that's doing it really amazing, I would say. I'd have to point to companies like Amazon, for example. There is one, that's a company that, because they have no stores, they have to rely on a digitally driven experience in order to be successful. And as they've built that out over the years, they've used the data that's created by their customers, browsing behavior, engagement with different types of emails, and they've done a nice job because they've had to rely on that. That really has been the way they've had to build their company. When you start looking to brands that have stores, catalog, e-commerce sites, they've had multiple ways to connect. Now what we're seeing is they're recognizing that as consumers shop across all of those different channels, there's expectation that they feel as if they're one brand and not multiple channels. So the real opportunity there is to start to understand the consumer behavior and deliver back a very personalized experience that feels continuous across all the channels in which the consumers shop. So no one's doing it really amazing today, but we are seeing a lot of companies building the foundational capabilities around creating a customer data warehouse so I can gather all this information, starting to understand where my consumer is shopping and tracking them. So they're putting foundational capabilities in place today so they can start to kind of build the house on top of it. Because there's so much inherent data and we need to move fast, we need to understand, cloud is becoming a business model that we believe is going to become really important for companies to start to think about as they start to rely more and more on this social, unstructured content that's out there. And they have to. It's being created so fast. There's so much of it. They need to get through it very quickly. It'd be impossible to build a scalable, data warehouse internally in order to do it. They'd be constantly driving that. So now we think cloud really is the new infrastructure for companies to start thinking about as they have these aspirations to go after social content in order to better understand their customer. I'll go back to foundational capabilities, and this is where I talk to a lot of retailers today about this, which is if you truly want to have single view of customer, you have to start creating ways to aggregate all of your customer behavior and customer data in a way that you can then understand it quickly. Because the value today of single view and big data is your ability to scale it. And that is the challenge a lot of companies have today is how do I build a scalable model knowing that the data is going to come faster, it's going to grow at a rapid rate, I may have different types of data coming in. So I really go back to foundational capabilities and building that central repository where I can start and then having the right tools to get in there and understand what's really happening with the data so I can start to have a true view. Today it's in different pockets. It's outside the organization's firewall. Some vendors own some, others own others. It's really hard to get at it today because it's everywhere. They really have to start pulling it together today. We're in this very interesting time where technology enablement is driving the front office now. And what I've seen is there are companies where the CIO and the CMO haven't even met each other. And they really need to become friends because really they need to be working together in lockstep to build the right infrastructure underneath of the strategy of kind of the new CMO. And those two go hand in hand. But historically, they haven't really had to have that tight of a relationship. So what's happened is you have marketing teams using outside vendors to do certain things, and they've used multiple different ones. And because of that, data is kind of sitting everywhere. So now there's this opportunity to say, okay, let's build a real roadmap that says, how do we start to bring this data back in-house, or at least using APIs, get at the data, so we can build a model where we can get accomplished what we need to get accomplished as a marketing organization, and make sure we have the technology underpinnings to do that. And I think today we see a lot of companies kind of pausing and realizing that that is the work of the work that has to start if they're ever going to get to that aspiration of single view of customer and scalable model around data insights. We're seeing this use of unstructured content is infiltrating every part of the company now. Consumers are now talking about companies' HR practices. They're talking about the product. They're talking about sourcing practices. We see consumers today. There was a company in the United States where consumers were literally protesting outside their stores based on their human resource practices. So consumers are voting today about everything a company is doing. And they're using social as their way to magnify their point of view. So every time they do that, and if that goes viral, there's a tremendous amount of unstructured content that gets created immediately around that. So you really have to be able to get at that quickly so you're able to kind of take your next best action on things like that. I often talk to companies about starting at the organizational level, starting at the leadership level. And there really needs to be alignment. If you think about the customer experience that you want to create, and you were to actually create a journey map around what that experience would be, underneath of that experience is a certain set of capabilities and probably a very defined set of technology capabilities beneath that all kind of tie back to business metrics. And I see that exercise as a way to align the C-suite, and it really needs to start there. Because if it doesn't, as it starts to go deeper into the organizations, you can have a tremendous amount of confusion. So I always talk about how do you get the top aligned around what the strategy is and the role of technology in that and accomplishing that strategy. Because without it, what you have is exactly a siloed decision making that creates confusion. Takeaway tip number one would be alignment at the top. Really understand what your goal is. And make sure the entire leadership team understands and has the same definition for becoming customer activated. That's really important, because walking away from the table with different expectations around the same word can create tremendous confusion. So I always start with alignment at the top. The second one is really understanding what the journey is going to look like. It's not all going to happen in year one, right? And today, businesses are really seeking to derive value out of any investment that they make. So it's important to align your expectations around your journey. And finally, I would say, what is the technology underneath of that? In today's world, there is no way this journey will happen without a technology enablement and a technology roadmap. And that means inviting the CIO and the IT team into the room and into the meetings. These organizations can no longer work separately. They need to be working together, because every step taken along creating a customer-activated company is going to involve some step or potential leap in technology enablement.